Hello, and thank you for watching my video. My name is Jonathan Lightfoot, and some of you know me from my other videos where I talked about technical items, but when I talked about those technical items, I was talking about them from the sense of business. This video is a little different. I'm not going to be talking about tech in business. Today, I'm still going to talk about tech, but it's going to be tech in education. Some of you know that I am a Microsoft certified trainer and I teach various technical training classes to people looking for certification in Microsoft technologies. I'm also what is known as a MIE, or a Microsoft Innovative Educator trainer. This means that I am able to work with school districts, schools, school administration, and educators and teachers on digitizing their content, meaning taking it out of paper format and putting it into digital format and using the tools that are available to modernize their curriculum. Lately, I've been working with several schools and school districts along with teachers on digitizing their content due to COVID-19. If your school system or your state or even your school is looking into how are they going to open next year, is it going to be in person, meaning it's going to open the same way as it always has operated, where students will go into the schools and they will meet with their teacher and they will be there for 6, 7, 8 hours a day? Or is it going to be all online, meaning instead of going into a physical schoolhouse, now they're going to be doing remote learning? Most likely that's going to refer to at home. And there are some school districts that are looking at doing a hybrid model where they will go to school on certain days and on other days they will be educated at home. No matter which option your school or school district or state is looking at, be it online, be it in person or hybrid, this conversation or this video will apply to you, or at least it could. Now, even if your school system has said, oh no, we're going to open up as usual, students are going to come into the classroom and we're going to teach as we always has, even if they have said that, we've noticed one thing with COVID, it changes, right? We've had states open and shut and curfews implemented and taken back. The same thing could happen with the schools. So even if you are already planning on having your student in school as normal, that could change based on the trajectory of the COVID cases that might come along. So I would still encourage you to watch this video and pick up some tips, have it in your back pocket, if you will. So if there is a change, you will be prepared and ready to go. Over these last few weeks, while working with educators on their curriculum and getting them digitized, I've come across several helpful tips that I think that you as a parent or guardian will find useful for ensuring that your student will have the best educational experience. Let's get started. Tip number 1, choosing a form factor. When we're talking about the form factor, we're talking about the casing. How is that computing device going to be installed or even used in the environment, in this case, in your home? Now, I know you might be tempted to go to the big box retailer and purchase a computer. Maybe it's a desktop computer. It might be a cheap one or an inexpensive one, or it might be mid-level, mid-price range, or what have you. And that's always not the best way to go. Now, when we're talking about form factors, we're talking about desktop computers, we're talking about laptops, we're talking also about tablets, and in some cases, it even could be a mobile phone or a mobile device. The form factor is very important for your student. For instance, if you get a desktop computer, that's typically going to be something that's going to be rather bulky, so it's going to be anchored or installed in a certain location. Let's say, for instance, you might have it installed in the child's bedroom. This could be an advantage because you're able to connect a wired internet connection. So now they don't have to worry about the wireless or the Wi-Fi. However, keep in mind that that is going to anchor that desk as the place that your student's going to study. There's nothing wrong with that necessarily. It all depends on the student. So some students might be fine with sitting at a desk and looking at a computer monitor or two while they're getting their schoolwork done. This enables them to be able to watch their videos, participate in the group collaboration projects, or even just study or watch videos that might be a part of the curriculum. However, again, you have to look at your student and see what type of a learner are they. Are they the type that can sit at a desk all day? If so, then a desktop computer could be the best solution for them. However, let's say your student likes to walk around. Maybe they like to go to the breakfast nook or the breakfast bar in your kitchen, or maybe they like to do their work outside. They could like to sit on the couch in a living room or in a family room. Some might even like to sit at the dining room table. So by having a desktop computer for those types of students, that might not be a good idea because they could get easily distracted. They could start complaining about, they don't like sitting at the chair all day, or it's boring, or what have you. So when you're thinking about your student, you should think about, well, how do they learn, or how are they in the house? And you can observe this as well as speaking with the student. Do they want to sit at a desk all day, or do they prefer to be able to roam through the house or in certain areas of the house while they're doing their studies? So the desktop computer might not work. In those instances, a tablet might be a better option, or even a laptop might be a better option. And also keep in mind, where are they going to work? If they're going outside, then maybe a laptop might be good if they have a flat surface that they could put it on. Or if they're going to sit cross-legged in the yard, they could use a laptop. But if they're going to, prefer to lay in a hammock or prefer to sit under a tree, then in that instance, that might be better to get a tablet. Now, each of these tips that I'm going over in this video, I'm going to do follow-on videos on where we're going to go more in depth about each of the tips. So there will be another video where we're going to talk about form factor, as well as certain specs or specifications you should look for if you're going to purchase a laptop. Keep in mind that if you go and find an old computer or a laptop or a tablet that was sitting in a closet somewhere that you used a couple years ago, that may not necessarily be the best solution for your child. And again, in that video, we'll go more into in depth into how to choose a computer for your child. Tip number 2, checking the internet speed. Now, for this one, you're going to have to work with your internet service provider. Now, up to this point, you may not have thought about your internet speed. You may have gotten cable and that's all you were really concerned with. The internet, it's there, but really you didn't, care too much about the internet speed because your cable worked fine, so you thought everything was good. Now is the time to look at your internet speed and see what kind of package that you might have. I know various ISPs or internet service providers. These could be like the people who provide your cable most commonly now provide internet. However, you may have another carrier or another internet service provider that's separate from there. But they offer internet speeds at different packages or different price points. And depending on your price point and the package you got, you may be limited with how much speed or how fast your internet is. Now, when we're talking about the internet speed, we're looking at, how long does it take to upload and download materials to and from the internet? Now, this is important because if you're watching videos or if you're doing group collaboration, some of the curriculums, they have an awful lot of group collaboration where your student will be working with other students on projects, research. They may be watching a video and then they'll be discussing that video afterwards. So they're basically doing a lot of video conferencing. Also, the teacher might be using a whiteboard that they'll be writing on, as well as the student might be writing on and contributing to that. If you don't have a very good internet speed, your child will notice that, it'll buffer a lot for videos. It might lock up on a screen. They may be talking and people are complaining, saying, hey, you're coming in garbled or what have you. So you want to make sure that you have an internet speed or package that's going to give you pretty good coverage, if you will. Now, typically the good rule of thumb is you want to have at least 30 megabytes per second for download, because primarily they're going to be downloading a lot of things, streaming videos, like I talked about, video conferencing, exchanging files. So you want to make sure that they have about 30 megabytes speed of download. Now for upload, not so much. A lot of their work will be done online, and they'll be saving that work in the cloud. There are various clouds that your class or your school or school district will use. So they're not going to have to worry too much about uploading, but they will have to do some uploading. For instance, let's say they were doing an independent assignment where they made a PowerPoint presentation and they wanted to upload that. So for that, you want to make sure that you have at least 10 megabytes per second. So, 30 megabytes per second for download and about 10 megabytes per second for upload. Anything faster than that or higher than that, great. But if it's lower than that, that's definitely something you might want to talk to your internet service provider about to make sure that you have the bandwidth, if you will, to have that good upload and download. And while I'm talking about bandwidth, another thing to think about is you may have a good internet speed. So you're looking at it and you're like, oh, wow, it's over 30, maybe I'm getting 70 or something. The next thing you want to look at is your bandwidth, and that is how big of a pipe of data can you send and receive through your internet provider. Some packages, I know that they have them as small as 3 gigabytes, and some they have unlimited data, if you've ever heard that. If you have a small package like 3 gigabytes, your student may go through that pretty quickly. So if they're going through that pretty quickly, typically what will happen is your internet service provider will increase your costs. So they may say, you get 3 gigabytes per day or per month. And if you go over that, then they're going to charge you, could be by the megabyte, it could be by the gigabytes, and that charge is going to be at a premium. So you might notice a spike, if you will, in your internet service provider's bill. Could be your cable bill or something. So you definitely want to make sure that you have that. If you can't afford it, I would recommend unlimited. I have it at my house and it works great because I don't care how much speed or how much data we upload or download. It's all part of my package. Now, having that package per month is more expensive than if I had a 50 gigabyte per month limit. However, if I do the math of it all, if I should go over that limit, then I would end up paying a lot more money. So you want to check your internet speed as well as your bandwidth. Your internet speed, we're referring to up and down speeds, how long it takes to upload something, how long it takes to download something, and also how quickly that occurs. And also you want to look at your bandwidth. How much data can I upload or download from the internet? And while I'm thinking about it, some organizations, some internet service providers, if you talk to them and tell them that the reason that you need to change your package or get more upload speed or download speed or bandwidth or storage even in some cases, if you tell them that, it's because my child is going to school online and we're predicting that there's going to be increased usage. Some ISPs I know have started rolling out special packages or discounts for families. So definitely if you're talking to your ISP, you want to ask them, is there a package or a special deal for the student to be using that computer for working at home? Also, you might also want to check with your school district or your school. They may know or have a special code that you could enter to get a discount on your internet bill. Tip number 3, setting up the environment or environments. This is about your student, right? So your student's going to be taking their classes or maybe home taking those classes, and they may not want to work in certain areas, or they prefer to work in other areas of your house. Now, you might be thinking, oh, the student will probably be working in their room, and that's all there is. However, if you think about school and you think about the process of school, especially when you start talking about the middle school as well as high school, they change classes, right? They're not sitting in one classroom all day long. And even in primary school, when they are in second or third or fourth grade, they may not be changing classes, except inside that room, inside the classroom, the teacher may have outlined or have different areas in the room. Maybe there's an area where the desks are. There might be a little library corner. There may be an audio station, so they're able to move around. And the same is true with your student. Also, think of yourself at work. A lot of people can't sit at a desk all day long. They have to be up and moving around. Maybe they're in a lounge. Maybe they go sit in a shared workspace area or a conference room. If your office has, beanbag chairs, I've known people who like to sit in a beanbag chair when they're doing certain activities. Well, your student is the same way. They're going to want to move around the house. And in a way, I guess you could say your entire house could potentially become a learning area or a school for them. So when you're looking at the different workspaces for the student, you may want to sit down with your child and ask, where do you feel that you'll do most of your work, or what kind of work? And they might say, when I'm doing videos, or if I'm doing collaboration, I like to be in my room at my desk. If I'm doing creative writing, I might like to be in the family room, or I might want to be outside under the tree that's in the front yard or the backyard. And these are all different areas that you should, make note of. And you want to make sure that the areas are conducive to working for them. So, you might prefer it to be quiet in your work area. Your student may not. They may say, I like to do my creative writing sitting under a tree, listening to my music, for instance. You want to try to accommodate as best as possible. They may also say, when I'm taking an exam or a test even, I need to have quiet. I need to have some place that is away from the noise of the everyday. In that case, they may use their room, or they may go to the dining room because maybe that's not used that often. That is another thing you have to think about is, where are they going to do their work at? One tip I learned with my child is, if she's has a test, she actually has a sign that she puts on her outside of her door that says, I'm taking a test, and she'll close the door. And that's a reminder for me. So if I walk past her door, I know, I can't disturb her because she's in a test at that point. Also, keep in mind that your school, your teachers may have very strict rules around testing where they want them in a quiet place that they're not disturbed. So they may ask you about that. So you do definitely want to look around your home, work with your child to figure out what areas of the home they're going to want to do certain things in, and try to make that as conducive as possible to their learning. But also keep in mind that what's conducive to them may not be conducive to you. Maybe they have a desk in the study or the den, or they're in their room, and they might like to have, their collectibles or, little gadgets, if you will, on the table. If that helps them learn, that helps them learn. They may not like to have that clear or clean desk, if you will, that looks like to us as a productive place to study. There have been studies that there are some students who definitely don't work well in a clean, sterile environment all school day. So you do definitely want to look at your environment that your children are going to be doing their work in. Tip number 4, Wi-Fi coverage. Now, earlier we talked about internet speeds, and now we're talking about the wireless coverage in your house. This is very important for your student, especially if they tend to want to wander, if you will, like we talked on the last tip about, doing different types of activities in different parts of the house. Wireless coverage or Wi-Fi coverage is going to be very important. You may have what's known as dead areas, or sometimes I call other areas soft areas. So what do I mean by that? In your house, you may have noticed that, certain parts of your house, you're not able to stream a video, or maybe there's certain parts of your house that, you can't access the internet on your mobile phone. Those would be what I call dead areas. This is where the signal strength from your router is not reaching those areas. So if you'll look on the screen, you'll notice that, we have a typical layout of a house. And let's say that the living room is where the wireless router is. Now, the wireless router, you would have received that from your internet service provider. That's the same box, perhaps, that you get your cable out of, right? And so you'll notice on the diagram, maybe you put the wireless in my living room, and it may not be a strong wireless. Maybe the walls in my house are very thick. I live in South Florida, where we make hurricane houses, hurricane proof. So there's a lot of cinder block and cement that's used in the construction of our houses. So if your internet router is a couple of rooms over, that room may not receive Wi-Fi coverage. Also, we have what I call soft areas. Now, these areas, you may notice that you can still get to the internet, but it might be a little slow, or it drops on you every now and then, but you can still get Wi-Fi. You'll get a signal every now and then. Now, if you'll look into the diagram on the screen, you'll see that we have a living room that is approximately right here. And in there, let's say that's where the Wi-Fi is. You'll notice a circle around here now that will show, this is what we call the strong area, right? So that strong area, depending on the Wi-Fi, depending on your router, depending on the construction of your home, might go up to a certain area or a certain extent, and it's very strong. And then right after that, you get into what I call those soft areas, those areas of the internet that it's iffy. And then if you look on the outer edge, outside of the coverage, those would be your dead areas. So you'll see here we have 2 bedrooms that are in the top, or the northeastern part, if you will, of the house. They may be dead areas. And if that's an area where my student is going to be doing their work in, then that would not work for them, right? Because they wouldn't have reliable internet access. So there are some things I might do. I could move the router into another location that is going to encompass them. There is also, we can get wireless boosters or range extenders for them. In order to know, however, if you're going to need those types of equipment, and again, I'm going to do a whole video about wireless coverage and some tips and tricks. But one thing you can do really quickly, if on your phone, you can go to the App Store. If you have iPhone, you go to the Google Play Store. If you have an Android device, and they have wireless detectors or strength analyzers, and these applications are free. You may have to deal with some ads, but you're able to activate it and open up that program, and you can walk around your house looking at your screen. It'll tell you how strong of a signal that you're getting. So naturally, if you're standing right next to the router, it might say it's 100% very strong. But as you start walking into the different rooms, you may notice it may drop down to 95, 90%. You go to another room, it might go down to 80%. And you could get to some areas, depending on how large your house is, where it's going to register, 2% or something. So the higher the number, the stronger the signal. The lower the number, the lower the signal. Now, keep in mind, just because you may have a house or a router that does not cover your entire house, those dead areas and those soft areas, they're not necessarily a bad thing, right? So if you think about the dead areas, this is where I can't get internet, that might be a great place for creative writing to be done, right? Because they don't really need to be online. They're just going to be, in their own thoughts. Maybe they're keeping a journal, so they just want to, have some place where they can just sit and type their documents out or their thoughts out. The softer areas, these are where, you're getting, anywhere from, 75% down to 25%. Those are what I call your soft areas, and they can still be used. I mean, maybe they're doing just some web surfing. They're looking up, they're doing research things. They're not trying to do a video conference call, or they're not trying to do collaboration or anything like that. But they do want to get on the internet a little bit to maybe look up sources or look up information for a paper that they're writing. So those would be great areas to do that in. In those stronger areas, that's definitely where they're going to want to use it for video conferencing, collaboration, downloading or streaming videos, or doing other internet activities that are going to require a pretty good signal. So don't throw away the entire house thinking that I can't use this because there's too many dead areas. They can all be used. And the other thing I would advise is, as you go through the house with that phone app, trying to see the signal areas, you might get little sticky notes or little colored dots so you can put, green is strong, maybe yellow is kind of weak, and red is dead areas, so that the student will know, okay, these are different areas that I can use the internet versus other areas where I can't. Like I said, I'll have a video just on wireless coverage and tips and tricks for you later on. And tip number 5. This is an easy one. It's about being engaged. You have to keep in mind that this online learning for a lot of students, especially your children, this may be new to them. They're going to have, growing pains with it, especially in the first week or two, getting used to, working online versus being in person. And the curriculums that I've helped educators and trainers and teachers put together, I have to tell you, they're very engaging. They use all sorts of technologies from AutoCAD, Tinkercad. They're going to be exposed to different website resources that they probably never knew existed. They're going to be using some office software that you're used to using. For example, PowerPoint, Excel. They may be using SharePoint in some of the classes if you're familiar with that software. And they're going to get these projects done and they're going to be amazed. And unlike before, where at the end of the grading period, they may come home with a folder or a notebook that has all their class projects, their homeworks that they've done, and they want to show them to you, including the artwork that has to go on the refrigerator, of course. Now you're going to be a part of that. So as they get done with assignments, it's not a matter of I turn an assignment and they're waiting for a grade to get it back. They're actually going to be able to show it to you as they're doing it, or even after they complete it. This whole dynamic is different for the students. So anything that you can do to be supportive and be engaged with them, please try to do it. I know with my student, she is always, sending me email messages or text messages of her work. And I always try to make a time to, stop and, look at it and ask questions about it, like, how did you do that? Or what software did you use? What was your thinking behind putting this, getting this topic done? And, to see the listen in her eyes, she really, I like to say, really helped her to really embrace the online platform of doing her work. And, I'm seeing leaps and bounds from that. And, in our household, we reward good grades. So, even if it's something like she did a project, she's going to get an ice cream cone that weekend or a sundae. She likes Sundays. So that really also helps her stay engaged. And, it's been really great for me as a parent to be able to see the progress of the work as it goes through. And another thing to think about is, now you may actually get a text message or an email message in the middle of the day from your child saying, hey, take a look at this. That's always good to see. Also, a lot of the classrooms and digital instruction curriculums that I've been working with, they have tools and software that they're able to send links to you so that you're able to actually look in on the student and see how they're progressing. You can see, what's the assignments and things like that. I know that there's other software out there that's already in play in several school districts around the country that already has that. And that's super and that's great. I also know that you may end up having to, configure your computer so you can do video teleconferencing. So the teachers are going to probably want to have, parent-teacher conferences, but instead of going in person, it's going to be a video call, which is, a lot more convenient for you, especially if you have to drive or take time off work to get there in time. Now you better use a video teleconferencing software to have that parent-teacher conference call. So to wrap up, the 5 tips I have is tip number 1, form factor. What kind of computing device are you going to get for your child? That could be a PC, that could be a laptop, or it could be a tablet. Tip 2, internet speed. You have to make sure that the upload and download speeds that your child is going to be using, the Wi-Fi that they're going to be using, is going to be up to par. Remember, my rule of thumb is 30 megabytes per second for download and 10 megabytes per second for upload at a minimum. Next is the environment. or environments, where is your student going to be learning? They most likely are going to want to move around the house depending on what they're doing. So you want to make sure that that environment is conducive to them. Number 4 is wireless coverage. So as your student is moving around the house or wherever their primary study area is, you want to make sure that there is Wi-Fi connectivity. Even if it's not the best Wi-Fi in the areas, they can still use those areas, right? They're great for study areas or for research areas. Definitely you want to be closer for the video conferencing, video streaming. You want to make sure you're closer to the router or you have a very strong signal for those. And tip number 5, being engaged. This is all new to the students. So therefore, any encouragement that you can give them to tell them, what a great job they're doing or to assist them, that's going to help them get used to this new normal, if you will, for them in school. As I said earlier, a couple times in the videos, I will be making individual videos for each of these tips where I'll go a little deeper, do a deeper dive on, the type of form factor, the type of PC to get, ways of, measuring your internet speed, the different environments and things to think about for where they're going to be studying. All of those tips are going to have their own individual videos, so I'll be able to go much deeper in depth in those and give you even more tips and tricks as well as strategies. If you like this video, please hit the like button. It really does help my channel. I'm, just starting out with these types of videos, and I want to see, is this content that you like or not? I do have the comments open, so please feel free to leave a comment. I'll try to read through them and answer them as best as I can, as quickly as I can. Also, if you want to make sure that you are aware when I do post those other videos, down below the video there is a little bell icon. If you click on that, that'll send you a notification, if you will, that I've uploaded a new video so that then you can go check it out. And finally, if you want to subscribe to the channel, again, there's a big red subscribe button on the bottom. I really would appreciate that. And again, any comments you have, please feel free to contact me in my chats or the comments below. And everyone have a great day. Thank you.